Our anticipation is that the problem should continue to get better, actually, in the weeks ahead. Now, there are variables, obviously, that that we want to be tracking, and we're not going to take that for granted. Where people are working 24/7 around here to make sure that we're pulling out all the stops here to get more formula into shelves. But our hope is that this will actually continue to get better over the weeks ahead. But the goal is to maintain the safety standards so that people know that any product that appears on American shelves is product that meets the FDA's highest safety standards and it's safe for their child. For some people out there who are looking for formula, you may not find the formula that's in the brand that you're used to using, which is why we're actually encouraging people in those situations to consider switching brands, because sometimes there may be supply available in another brand. Now, look, I will say this as a parent who has in recent years, used infant formula myself for my children, that switching brands is not a simple proposition for many parents. You get used to a certain brand, sometimes you select it carefully, and it can feel like a big deal to switch it. So I know what that feels like. And we've been in situations in my family where we didn't have what we needed and we had to switch supply, and we thought 10 times about that. But what I do want parents to know is that any brand that you do see on the shelf is a brand that meets high safety standards and generally is safe for kids. Now, if your kid is on a specialty formula, and that may be a circumstance where you may want to speak with your OBGYN or your pediatrician to figure out, okay, what would be okay to switch to as an alternative. But that is one way, switching brands, that we can help more parents get access to supply. During the pandemic, we saw that when people got worried about supply, they actually started buying more, right? Because they wanted to make sure that if things did run out, that they had enough for the rainy days, so to speak. And we have seen, in fact, that purchasing has gone up in some quarters, probably potentially driven by that worry that people have about wanting to make sure they have enough supply. So a couple of things that I would say here. One is when it comes to price gouging, this is an area that the president and the administration feel very strongly about, and they're certainly looking to use every tool that they have to make sure that prices remain in a reasonable range. If people don't use this as an opportunity to charge people significantly more than they should be charged. The second thing, though, to keep in mind also is when it comes to, as you mentioned, people potentially buying a lot more supply than they need. This is tricky, right? You can't. What we're trying to advise people is to buy generally 2 week supplies at this point, recognizing that while there is supply out there, if we all go out and buy many months of supply, and everything we can get our hands on, that may be a circumstance where other families then may not have enough for them. And so we're encouraging people to try to get about 2 week supplies at this point. Finally, just remember this, I know there may be a temptation to think about using toddler formula for infants, or diluting the formula, or maybe even making your own formula at home for your infant. We're generally recommending people not do that. I can understand that people may be thinking about that, but the FDA is very thoughtful about both the composition and the proportions of the ingredients that go into infant formula, recognizing infants have very specific needs. And we don't want someone to feel like they need to somehow try to replicate that in their kitchen. It's not always easy to do. So those aren't options that we would recommend in terms of dilution, substitution with a toddler formula, or making your own formula at home just for safety concerns. We have certainly been urging states to help parents who are on WIC, program for women and infants and children, that is a program that supports many people in getting access to formula. And traditionally, people's choices are restricted when they're on the WIC program, but we've been urging states to give flexibility to parents so that they can actually buy a range of products based on what is available. And now 30 states, have already moved forward with those flexibilities, and we anticipate more will. But we've also urged Abbott to continue to provide the financial rebates to states so that states can have the financial support that they need to continue to provide that flexibility. So for parents who are on WIC, I just want you to know that those flexibilities should hopefully let you also buy a broader range of formula than you're used to being able to get at the store.